Okay guys, welcome back. Now, I thought I'd work on the flap servo just while I'm waiting for the wires to come, and this is what I've got. I've mounted the servo on a piece of cardboard for a minute in that square, and this will be the size of the air brake. Did I say flaps just now? Anyway, it's the size of the air brake. So what will happen is, it's really simple. I'll just turn the controller on and it'll just bear straight onto the back of the flap. Said flap again, haven't I? Air brake. So it's as simple as that. I'll probably have to put a packing piece on here to get it to go a little bit higher. I can actually move this plate up a little bit because it's not fixed. There you go, it's a bit higher. So it'll just drop down under its own weight, and obviously the slipstream. You get the idea. But to have it go down, I don't want it flopping around, so to have it go down, I may have mentioned earlier, I might have edited it out. I'm going to have a torque rod, which will, there'll be a box here, and the torque rod will just come along, go into the flap, come along, and then probably straight down into here or somewhere. So it'll just gently pull itself shut. So yeah, I think that will work. That's the simplest mechanism you can get, isn't it? It doesn't get any easier than that. So I'm happy with the size of the air brake. The plan shows an air brake coming up at an angle out of the thing, but there's a lot of engineering involved. And how simple is this? Dad's RC hang-up. It's that Friday feeling mug, except it's Monday. I bought some ready-made cables that have the MPX connector on the end, and they fit nicely into the 3D printed part that I printed, that I found online along with that part. This part mounts down in front of this square hole here on a piece of ply, which I get to cut, and then this part will glue into there like that and just poke through the end rib like that. How neat is that? And then all I've got to do is have the other plug in the fuselage, and I'm not going to fix it into the fuselage because if the wing moves out you've lost your controls, but I'll have it on the cable just loose flopping. So that's good. So that will go in for the aileron servo and air brake servo. Thank you. So that's good. So I guess I ought to go and get these parts in. I've got to cut a piece of plywood out for this to glue onto, and that will glue into there. Okay guys, I've mounted the holder, and now I've just cut the bits of wood that go diagonally. Put the bottom one in already, and just putting in the top one. This is what I'm going to use for one of the air brakes, but it's 4mm light ply. I'm toying with maybe doing a 3D print version, because I'm still toying with the hinges, whether I put in, I was going to use fabric covered hinges, but I think a more permanent solution might be actually to put a pair of pin hinges sort of plugged in to the bottom of the air brake and then going down onto the rear spar. Thinking I could maybe print an air brake and put slots in the bottom for the hinge to slide into. Just an idea. The opposite side I put some heat shrink on, and then more heat shrink over the top, because I should be pulling on that to get the peg undone. So that plugs into there like that when I assemble the wings, and that carries just one simple plug instead of messing around with lots of separate plugs. So that's quite satisfying. Okay guys, I've decided to go with the 1/16 ply to butt up to the 1/16 balsa. Makes a bit more sense. Only I don't quite have enough both sheets to do top and bottom. Have considered doing the first two bays, but my gut feeling is to stick to the 3 bays, and in case the plywood rib here, 7/8 ply. So I'll pick some up hopefully tomorrow. Had a bit of fun on the other wing. I'll show you this. We all make mistakes. I was watching a YouTube video at the time and my mind was diverted, but this piece here should be that way. But it's in now. I could put sort of 2 half bits there, I suppose, but it might even be better having one each way like that, to be honest, because it's really not going to bend either way now. Not bend, but you know what I mean. So I think I'll leave it as it is, but it just goes to show when you're not paying attention, doesn't it, that stuff happens. Right, I've been playing around with this, guys, and I've stuck on a layer of 1/16 balsa on the top, and it feels quite heavy actually, but it makes it look nice, doesn't it? Who wants to look at plastic? So I've amended the design of this one a little bit. I've put on a little slopey bit going this way for the servo to actuate on, and I put a bar in here initially to stop it, try and stop it from bending, but I think the balsa wood's going to stop, going to stop that anyway. I've epoxied it on so it's really like laminations. So I've glued in the plate that the servo sits in, so that's fixed. The only thing that isn't really fixed is the exact position of the servo. It can move in and out slightly, but that will be fixed as and when I've got this working and I can see exactly where it needs to be. I've got a piece of wire I'm going to use for the torque rod. There's a slot in the end of the air brake. Taken quite a bit of working out, but I must admit, really enjoyable trying to work out exactly what's what. Right, sorry Jeff, let's pause you off there a minute. Right, I've cut out a piece of light ply. I'm going to glue that straight in there and then level with the ribs, and then when I cap strip them, and I'll also put a piece along the top. I've had to change the torque rod that I had before because it was just taking so much effort to lift it. I think it would have burnt the servo out. So what I've done, I've used a slightly lighter wire, 0.8 mil as opposed to 1 mil, I think, and I've extended it. So instead of going from there, it's going all the way down to there. So I've got a much longer piece of wire and it's thinner, and now it feels just about right. The servo will not strain at all. The last sorry, the only reason that one's ply is because I used it to sandwich all those ribs down. So it's ply, so I thought I may as well keep it as a rib. I'm glad I did now. Okay, so that's in then, guys. That's really come in there nice. So I can take that spacer out because I've got to allow for the covering 2 thicknesses of it. But that's going to go, see how it's springing shut? This has been a bit of fun working out what goes where, but now I've got this one done, I can take the measurements and just transfer it to the starboard or right wing. I notched out where the hinges go and then realised that it worked quite well even with it in, so I've stuck them back in, the 3 little pieces.
Thanks for watching the videos.
See you, Jeff.
The old school model works.
Right, I've been working on the air brake and just fine tuning it a little bit and getting all the gaps right and the height and everything. And this is what I've got. So it's not quite there yet. And then it snaps shut. It snaps shut on the torque rod here, which goes all the way up to here. But yeah, pretty pleased with that. I've had to sand the leading edge, sand it at an angle because it was binding on the front. But I think that's fine now. I might have to take a little bit more wood off this piece here just to help it up. I'm not displeased with that. Okay then guys, I'm quite pleased with this. I've put a little boot on. I've put on a metal control arm, and I made a little boot, 3D printed a boot to make it a little bit longer. So now I've got this. It's making a scraping noise because the plastic 3D printed on the inside is ridged, grooved a bit, but I can smooth that up. And my next step would be to panel this in around and put plywood on the centre section here. I'm going to demonstrate the finished air brake. I've been playing around on this for days, it seems days, trying to get things just so. So let's give it a go. Up she comes. Up and down. Up and down. So servo's screwed in now. I have changed things around actually. Because it was the 1mm wire was quite stiff as a torque rod to push the servo, for the servo to push against. I cut it here and joined a piece of, I think it's 0.8 wire, which goes from there to there actually, or about there to there. Just made that a little bit shorter because it's easier to twist, and it took a bit of pressure off, but it still shuts with a reasonable plop, as you can see. So it's under pressure, but not too much pressure. The hook's in, everything's in, the torque rod's on. Now it's time to put some plywood on the centre section. I have stuck wood there because I toyed with maybe just putting ply to there. But do you know what? I think I might take it the full width, and then it covers the full depth of the main spar, which is about there. Got lots of weights to keep it nice and flat because the bottom of the wing comes up, so I'm going to have to pack it. Might be an idea. Here is some ply, that might do nicely just to wedge that up. So I'm going to put some glue on there. Just thought I'd show you this. I've got to cut some, or get some triangular section to put around the leading edge of the, because the aileron has to be rounded and the wood comes over it and forms a false leading edge at the top. But I need some triangular section. So here's some triangular section and here's a square section. So I've just made this, and I just very quickly just drew this up on Tinkercad, the software I use online, to make myself a little 3D printed former. So I just cut a piece of balsa down to a strip, put it in the wedge, and then I just sanded it, and I produce a nice piece of triangular section. So another use for the old 3D printer. Really pleased. On Tinkercad that's really easy to produce. Anyway, let's get on with this. Before I do you want me to tell you how I did it? It's really simple. On Tinkercad you have, let me bend you down slightly, you have a piece of paper, you have different shapes you can base a design on. So you first of all you just drag in a cube. So the cube I just roughly measured, so it's about 15 by 20 I think, something like that. Stretch the cube out. It's sort of like that, a cube, isn't it? Stretch the cube out to the length you want. So now I've got an oblong, like that. I then get another cube, 6mm square, so a small cube, like that. You just drag another cube out and change the dimensions to 6. Rotate it 45 degrees, so now it's a diamond. Place it in the center line there. So now I've got a square there, like that. And extend the length out to the same length as that. And then you turn this cube transparent. So now I've got a solid cube, oblong, a transparent cube, you then join the two together, merge them together, and you end up with that. So my transparent cube is still here, it's just you can't see it and it doesn't print, of course. So very easy, very quick to make. Now I can make any size I want. That's probably the easiest thing I've ever made. I'm going to use Speed Bond. Right, I'll use my Mark 1 finger, spread it out. Get the leading edge and the root rib pretty much lined up. Actually, I just thought I could glue this on with the iron, but I think I'll weigh it down because then at least I know it's absolutely flat. Just in case there's a twist in it. I'll put the top piece on. That's pretty good down there. Yep, I'm happy with that. So we'll let that dry, guys, and we'll come back to it in a couple of hours where I'll repeat the process for the top of the wing. And then that'll be that sealed in then. Oops, that's the bottom one glued on and tidied up, and I'm just going to put the top one on. I'm just experimenting on how I'm going to keep the front down, and that works quite well. So I'll just take that off. I've steamed it a bit as well just to make it more flexible. So for now, let's get some glue on. I'll put my business card in there as well for anybody in the future that takes the wing apart. Hopefully it won't be for many years, otherwise it means I'm repairing it or something. Just put a bit of glue on that, end grain, and we're good. I've got everything in. I've got the hook in, I've got the cables in, everything's in. So let's crack on. Now I'm going to try and line this up with the leading edge and this edge here, and then the back edge can hang over. So let's try and get it right. I'm going to go there and there. Yeah, that's nice. Nice to see the glue spreading out as well. It's got to go forward slightly there. Pop those up there a minute. Right, here we go. Not much to go, but wow. There's a good old solid box there, Cliff. It's not going anywhere. That is a solid box. I could have used thinner ply. I mean, don't forget the plans originally said 0.4 ply. This is, well, 15, 1.5. So it's quite a bit thicker. But I'm going to now use 1. I just didn't want a plywood cover everything. So now I'm going to 1/16 balsa here, all down the leading edge, and then the rest will be an open structure. The first piece of wood to go on is this piece. Just trimmed it to fit, and it's going to go on precisely there. So I'm going to stick this on with white glue and take it off, and then use the iron to stick it on again. So I'll demonstrate that. You've seen it before, but if you haven't seen it before, you'll see it now. Okay, so what we do, we just pop that on there like that in the exact position. We smooth it all on to get an accurate transfer of the glue. And we take it off. And we let that dry. A little gap there, a little gap there, a little gap there. And we'll let this dry, and when it's dry, we'll use the heat iron to stick it, reactivate, actually is a good word, reactivate the white glue and it will instantly set. So I'll be back when this has dried. Shan't be long. It's all dry, so we pop that on there. Get that lined up. I have trimmed it level with the back. I didn't need to, but I thought I would anyway, just to because I could. There we are. That goes on there like that. And then we get our iron, and this one is actually set to 130C, which is quite hot, but 16th ball set, and I just do this, and it kind of like activates the glue and turns it into hay almost, just dries it straight away, which is particularly good if you want to do curved areas, which I will do on the leading edge especially. Now I can lay the wing flat and do this piece. I'm going to glue this one in and just weigh it down because I'm in no hurry to get this one on. Seems to have gone down pretty well. I'll add some weights and we'll come back to this much later, as it's lunchtime now, so that will give it an hour or two to dry, which is nice. That is beautiful, beautiful and level, which is what I wanted. Right, I've cut this out from there, so now I can glue this in here like that. That looks much better going onto that, and then that will butt onto there when I do the leading edge sheeting. I think that looks pretty cool. You won't see it, of course, when it's covered, but we know it's there. Sand, well, it feels very nice. One there. Holding it in place, just in case, like that. Now I'm going to move the whole thing forward after I've cut it, so it should be fine. I'll have a couple of millimeters sticking out the front. Okay, firstly I'm going to put this in two parts because it can join on as well as off. You know what I mean? Bend it around. Take it off. Okay, take it off. Right, we'll let that dry for a minute and then we'll iron it on. That looks okay. Pretty much dry, just the odd little spot, but nothing to speak of, so I'll get it in place. Okay, that's good. Right, let's stick it. This is at 130C. Turn that down a little bit. This is such a controlled way of sticking it because you don't have to worry about weights, getting lots of weights on it and pins and everything else. You just iron it on and it's stuck. fair amount of pressure. It's sticking pretty well. Concentrating where the ribs are, where the leading edge is. I've also stuck an extra bit of wingtip 16th on, because when I glued it on I made it level and not 1/16 up on the bottom surface, so the lower sight there, so I've made up a piece of 1/16 here. Yeah, that was good. Let's have a look from the top. See what, any gaps? No gaps. That's what I like to see. That looks alright, guys. Okay, that's successful. So I'm going to, when I put the top one on, I'm going to make sure it's absolutely flat. It looks absolutely flat, I've got to say. But that's got the washout on it. So yeah, pretty impressed with that. This might finish off part 16 because it's probably getting quite long. I shall carry on with the, I was going to say crack on then, so I said carry. I shall crack on with the front part of the sheeting, and then once that's on and sanded, I can glue on some actual leading edge, which will be about 1/2 inch, 3/8, something like that, shape to shape, and then the cap strips and fitting up the aileron servo. So yeah, pretty good progress, quite pleased with that. Thanks for watching, guys. Give the video a thumbs up if you wouldn't mind, if you've made it this far, and I'll see you in part 17. I don't know how many parts it's going to be. I thought it'd take about 10. Okay, thanks for watching. Cheers.